So this week, I'm going to react to a video with Riley Gaines, the Kentucky swimmer female who lost and was shafted by a biological male who was perpetrating as a woman in a tournament. This kicked off a huge debate dealing with the trans community and whether or not men should be able to compete in sports with women.
That would be no.
Well, in the House this week, subcommittee, there was a discussion about this, about the Biden administration wanting to allow men to play with women officially. And Title IX is a piece of legislation that allowed women to have autonomy in sports and to protect them from men.
The irony.
Wow, we sure have come a long way, baby. So let's take a look. It's not funny, really. Actually, not really funny at all, but it's just hilarious how the Democrats have no sort of sense of reality, morality, or even when it comes to their own policies, consistency. Because they would always come after conservatives saying, you don't like women, you hate women, there's a war on women. But when there's an actual assault on women, when there's actual attacks on women, when there's an actual war against biological women, they are totally silent. So let's take a look at this here. This is an article from the Daily Mail UK. House Subcommittee should reject Biden administration's proposal allowing trans athletes to compete in women's sports. Ex-college swimmer Riley Gaines tells Congress Americans know this is not fair. Now, the clip I'm going to show you with Riley Gaines totally flipped the script and totally got under the skin of this woke Democrat congresswoman. You got to see it. I'm going to play it here in a second. But let's go over this first as some backstory in case you guys are maybe not familiar with this particular meeting that happened this past week. The House Subcommittee for Healthcare and Financial Services became the latest legislative body to address the controversy of transgender athletes in women's sports on Tuesday as former Kentucky swimmer Riley Gaines, ex-O'Blaren lacrosse coach Kim Russell, and Heritage Foundation's Sarah Parshall Perry testified in favor of a ban. Tuesday's hearing took place as the Biden administration's Education Department is pushing to change Title IX to support the inclusion of trans athletes in women's sports. There should be no debate about this. However, we are here today because the Biden administration is choosing to ignore the truth, and I might add, the science, said committee chairwoman Lisa McClain, Republican from Michigan, to open the proceedings. And what I want to say here quickly is they are ignoring the science. I mean, the clear science, if you don't want to just go on XX and XY, how about bone density, and how about the actual hips and the reproductive muscles and the actual things that involve that? You know what I'm talking about? That's the science I'm talking about, not how you feel. Okay, let's get into this particular clip here. It's interesting. I'm going to scrub through it to hear what Riley Gaines had to say, because it really, again, took this congresswoman by surprise. Check this out.
Organization, the Heritage Foundation, loves Texas. Ooh, they love Texas. They always sending us some nonsense bills that somehow set this country on the wrong trajectory. They send them to Texas. They send them to Florida.
Wrong trajectory? I'm not even going to start there. Listen to her tone in her voice. Very condescending, very ghetto, if I might say. Very ghetto, condescending, and childish.
Every deplorable state that we can think about, they usually coming out of y'all's think tank. But nevertheless, when we...
So she said deplorable states, and they're actually going to try that, have that particular statement struck from the records. Check this out.
Talk about protecting women. What we've seen is, say, in the state of Ohio was one of the most recent states when their lawmakers didn't have the courage to do what they needed to do because, of course, we believe in gerrymandering. And because we believe in gerrymandering in this...
Point of order. I moved
Please
to strike
stop my
her
time.
I moved to strike her words.
So what point of order simply means is anybody on the floor, given this is parliamentary procedures or Robert's Rule of Order, essentially says that if you say point of order, you can stop any discussion if something is not in line with the committee rules or parliamentary procedures or anything of that nature. It gets struck down supposedly because saying or having that statement be stripped from the records is not supposedly a point of order qualified motion.
Horrible states.
That's not a point of order. Let the gentlelady proceed. The committee will suspend. Whoa, 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 whoa. The committee will.
So they're going to suspend and talk about it. Let's go to the next clip here.
It's disappointing to me.
Now listen to this chick right here. This is Congresswoman Lee. Listen to this.
That although the title of this hearing implies a much needed discussion, we're likely going to be forced to listen to transphobic bigotry.
And then this happened.
Inclusion cannot be prioritized over safety and fairness. And Ranking Member Lee, if my testimony makes me transphobic, then I believe your opening monologue makes you a misogynist. Thank you.
Ooh, look at her face. Look at her face. She's
I now
pissed.
thank you, Ms. Gaines. I now recognize Ms. Perry for her opening statements.
She's hot. So here's the thing. So the fact that she doesn't have any argument, the fact that the Democrats don't have any logic to go with their position at all, they have to go off of name calling. They have to go on changing the subject. They have to go on other things that are not related to the actual topic of biological women versus biological men, and the fact that there is an unfairness factor when you have biological men playing in the same sport as a biological woman. That's the facts. That's what they want to ignore and avoid. So to do that, they conflate, they deflect, they name call, and they put this out there saying, well, I know since this name of this committee meeting is going to be this, well, I'm going to expect there to be transphobic names and all that stuff happening. So when Riley Gaines made her statement, she said, look, okay, fine. You want to call me a transphobic? I'm going to call you a misogynist, which basically means you hate women. It's using their own playbook against them, and this chick was hot. She was pissed. Look at her. She is infuriated because these entitled woke people, and especially you give them a congressional pin on them as well. Oh, woo, they're really going to be incensed. And so she's hot, she's pissed, and she's trying to figure out what to do. And so some time passed, and she wants to have that record struck. So Riley Gaines, bravo for you for saying that, calling her out, using their own verbiage, lingo, whatever you want to call it, the wokeism, leftist Marxism rhetoric against them, and it basically took her by total surprise. And all we have to do is use their playbook against them with a fierceness that they would do to us, because that's what it's going to take. We can't be nice. We have to go after them in a way that they can understand and have a very difficult time of combating. So now let's hear this final clip from Lisa McClain from Michigan, who's over this committee. Listen to her, and I'm going to sit back and respond to this. It is brilliant, and it's common sense, and you can just see and hear the frustration in her expression and in her voice. It is really, really sad to see, but bravo to Miss McClain. Check this out.
The anti-trans sports bills being signed into law across the country seek to create a problem that just doesn't exist, all for the sake of perpetuating hate against vulnerable groups. This isn't about...
See, this is all identity politics. That's all this is. This is virtue signaling on a thing that has no virtue at all. It's unfair, period. And we all know this. So they're just trying to skate and skirt the issue, the real issue of men competing with women.
Preserving competition in sports. It's a way to mobilize would-be voters by turning trans rights into a political football. I encourage the Department of Education to prioritize finalizing this proposed revision to protect our transgender youth. And I encourage my Republican colleagues to stop picking on kids. I yield.
See, here you go. Same thing with kids in cages and all that stuff. They don't care about kids. If they cared about kids, they would go against Planned Parenthood. They really cared about kids. Let's just call it what it is. These talking points, these words, this rhetoric is just all that is. There's nothing behind it. It's just a means to the end with these people. They don't care about the actual issue. All they care about is their agenda. And their agenda is left, Marxism, wokeism, all that stuff. It's the same thing. And that's all they care about, is pushing that fourth agenda. That's all they care about. They don't care about the individual people whom it may hurt, whom it will hurt, and whom it absolutely has hurt. I'll be quiet.
Back.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Whatever happened to I am woman, hear me roar? What have we lost our minds? I sat here and listened to every label imaginable. I am here to protect women, girls. My God, why do I have to apologize for that? We spent decades trying to protect women, and you know what? We won. We won. So I will not apologize now or ever for trying to protect my daughters and women in sports. And that's what this hearing was about. Protecting women. So you know what? I am a woman, and let me tell you.
You notice how she's not talking from a script. She's talking from her heart. Everyone else was talking from a script, as if someone said, "Here, read this." But she's not doing that. She's talking from her heart, and it's very impassionate, and it's very convincing, and it comes with serious credibility.
Hear me roar, because I will not stop protecting women. You want to know why? Because we have rights too. Women have rights too. And our daughters have rights too. Let me be explicitly clear on that. And I will never stop protecting our daughters. I will never stop protecting women. That is my job as a mother, and it is the right thing to do. This hearing today has been extremely informative and heartbreaking. Frankly, I am mystified by the Biden administration's shameless failures to protect women's rights. We talk about protecting women's rights like that's such a bad thing, that's so evil to protect women's rights. Have we lost our mind?
Yes, we have.
The administration's proposed Title IX rule will rewind decades of progress in women's rights.
Remember how I talked about how I said that blacks will be kicked to the back of the bus in place of illegal aliens? Well, women are going to be kicked to the back of their peripheral bus by men, by the patriarchy. And it is so crazy. And the verbiage she uses, "I am woman, hear me roar," is a liberal talking point from back in the 70s, the Equal Rights Amendment effort that was going on back then. But it goes back to those days. And using and harping on that particular slogan is very smart and wise, because it throws their own rhetoric in their face and calls them back to a time when they actually did care about women's rights.
The Biden administration is weakening Title IX by allowing all males who identify as women to participate in women's sports. Okay, identify as women. How about just be a woman? Why can't I protect my women? Why can't I protect my daughters? Title IX was implemented by Congress to give women equal educational opportunities, including within federally funded school athletic programs. No, we're not there. Do we have a lot of work to do? You're doggone right, we do. But if this language gets in by the Biden administration, it will definitely not help women. I can assure you that.
So there you have it. What do you think about that? This is an interesting piece of legislation that the Biden administration is trying to do. It's to pander, but it's ultimately to, in my opinion, to destroy Western civilization. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. I mean, it just makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. There's a danger factor in there as well with men competing with women. I mean, give me a break. There's an unfairness factor there as well. So these liberals rail against the patriarchy, rail against men, rail about all this, but they're going to allow men in bathrooms. They're going to allow men to beat up on them in various sports, compete against them in sports which have an obvious advantage. If you have a higher density, bone density, speed, stamina, and all that, rail against them on that, but there's no problem with men doing the opposite. So here's the deal, guys. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be curious to know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.